everyone, today I want to take you through the exact process I use to manage my money. Over the past couple years, I've tried and tested different methods that have led me to my current iteration of money management. The three things I've optimized for with this method are: 1, simplicity. It can't be too complicated or I won't do it. 2, I can see exactly how my money is flowing in and out of my accounts. And 3, a method that allows me to still live my life while saving and investing. I think money management is one of the most important things we can learn, and unfortunately, it's not taught us in school, so we have to go out and figure it out on our own. So my hope is that this video can be helpful to somebody who's just getting started with their personal finance journey and is trying to figure out how to do this whole thing. And if you want the exact same spreadsheet I use in this video, there's a link down below that you can use to get it completely for free. So the first step of my process is to figure out my financial starting point, or in other words, figure out how much money I have across all of my accounts. So the way I do this is at the beginning of the month, I open up all of my bank accounts and my investment accounts and note down the beginning balance of each account in the gray box in the upper left corner of the sheet. This is a super important step for 2 reasons. 1, it forces me to face my finances and see exactly where I'm at. And 2, it allows me to compare my finances at the beginning and ending of the month to see if I'm progressing as I should be. So, with that being said, on the last day of the month, I do the exact same process, plugging my ending balance in, and then in this column over here, it automatically calculates my increase/decrease in the account balance. As all of my accounts here are asset accounts, my hope is that they are all increasing month to month. However, if you had liabilities, you could also put those there, and the hope would be that the balance is decreasing month to month as you pay down your debt. Now that I know where I'm starting at for the month, the next step of my process is to figure out how much income I expect to make for the month. In my situation, since my income is mainly coming from my W-2 job where I get paid bi-weekly, I split this expected income box by paycheck and include 2 other lines for potential side hustle income. For instance, maybe you run a small business on the side that generates some income, so I would also include that in this step if you can reasonably estimate your income. As the month goes on, another part of this income step that I like to do is to record my actual income that I receive in my bank account and 401k, and I do that over here in this actual income table. On payday, I check my bank account to see the amount deposited there, and I also check my 401k contributions to add it to it. Overall, this allows me to better see actually how much income came in and if it's in line with my expectations for the month, which just gives me a better overall picture of my finances. Now, this brings us to the main chunk of my money management system, and that is my budget. The first line in my budget is my income, which we input in the previous step, and these cells just reference the amount in the expected/actual income boxes respectively. Now, the next step is putting in all the categories of spending you want to include in your budget. You can see all of my categories are here, and there's a few things I'll note. The first being that the top category I have is for my 401k. The reason I put this here instead of with my other accounts down below the profit line, which we will get to later, is that my 401k is set up to automatically pull the money into my 401k before I ever touch it. And the great part about this process being automatic is that I know before any of the spending I am doing, I've already set aside money to invest in my tax advantage account. If you're new to personal finance and don't know the ins and outs of a 401k, you can check out this video up here where I give a breakdown of 401ks and Roth IRAs. So with that being said, even though it's not really an expense, I still put it in my expense buckets because I have set the money aside and can't spend it elsewhere later on in my budget. I'd recommend you do something similar to ensure that you always have a place in your budget for investing, because for so many people it's an afterthought and they never get around to it. Now really, the level of detail for these categories you go into is up to you, but I personally fall somewhere in the middle of detailed and vague. As you can see, I have some super detailed categories like for Peacock or Paramount Plus, which are small dollar amounts. I just decided to break out here, but on the flip side, I have a rather vague miscellaneous category that's kind of my catch-all bucket. Having this catch-all bucket for those expenses that aren't recurring monthly and mostly just occur randomly. If you want to do something similar and are just getting started, I would pull up your last couple months' bank and credit card statements and go down the statement categorizing every single expense. As you go, you will learn your spending habits, seeing where you spend the most. This is also useful insight into 1, figuring out which categories to put in your budget, and 2, figuring out if you're overspending in any one category. For some of y'all, you might be doing this exercise for the first time and are really mind blown by the fact that maybe you spend ludicrous amounts eating out or shopping on Amazon. Whatever it is, I'm sure that going through this exercise, you will probably find something in your spending habits that you were unaware of. But that's great. This exercise is there to do just that and reveal your financial blind spots. And now that I've built out my budget with all my expected spend in each category, we come to the main bulk of the operation, which is recording my actual expenses. And as you can see here, I actually track every expense. For some people, they may find this overkill, but for me, it's pretty streamlined where every 2 weeks, I just run through all my payment activity from my credit cards to my bank account and record every expense. I use this little drop-down menu where I have my custom budget categories, and as you can see, if I enter a food expense here, and we go over to the left in my actual amount column of my budget, there's a formula that automatically pulls it into the calculation for the month. This way, I can see throughout the month how I'm tracking with my spending compared to what I had planned. Now, if I happen to go over in any given category, for example's sake, let's say we go over on our food budget and we enter in a $1,000 food expense, you will see the cell automatically turns red to let me know that I've exceeded my budgeted food amount. This is great because it allows me to quickly tell where I slipped up so I can make decisions going forward to course correct. Now, the final part of this whole operation, after inputting all of my expenses, is deciding what to do with the money that I have left over, or in other words, my profit for the month. My profit is shown in the table on the left and equals my income minus expenses. This is the amount I'm left with after all of my spending and retirement investing for the month. I then allocate this amount to two different places, my high yield savings account and my traditional brokerage account. For me, most of the leftover money is going into my traditional brokerage account and is being invested into ETFs and things like that, with the hope that compound interest will do its thing. If you don't already know about compound interest, the simplest way to explain it is that it's the interest you earn on both your initial investment as well as the interest that it has already earned. So pretty much, the more you invest and the longer you invest, the more your money you will make. It's not a guarantee, and you need to look into your own investments, but as long as you stick to the basics, you should be able to grow your investment portfolio over time. Now, for the money that's not being invested, I use a high yield savings account that I have set up with SoFi. The reason I bank with SoFi rather than a big national bank is that my savings account earns a much higher APY than I would with a savings account with Chase or Bank of America. Right now, SoFi is paying out at 4% APY, whereas with Bank of America, their standard savings account offers an APY of just 0.01%. If you're banking with a large bank, I think switching to a high yield savings account is one of the most simple, easy to do things you can do to improve your finances. Because if you're not, you're pretty much leaving money on the table. So that's my complete money management system. And again, if you want the same spreadsheet completely for free, check out the download link in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and consider checking out this video over here that YouTube thinks you might like as well.